44% of Americans breathe dangerously polluted air. In California, that number climbs to 82%. To a chief financial officer, these public health statistics represent an economic time bomb, eroding corporate balance sheets through the hidden friction of actuarial lag. This sub-optimization trap begins when a child suffers an asthma attack from PM 2.5 pollution. The parent loses wages, defaulting on their utility bill. The hospital absorbs the emergency visit. The utility raises rates, and a nearby tech hyperscaler pauses a billion-dollar expansion. Every entity in that chain acted rationally on its own isolated ledger. Yet, by optimizing for their individual survival, they collectively destabilize the local economic system. Under current antitrust laws and strict data privacy protocols, competitors are legally prohibited from pooling their operational data. The utility cannot share customer payment histories with the insurer. The hospital cannot share admission patterns with the data center. These entities are forced to suffer in silos. This fragmentation forces corporate actuaries to rely on retrospective public health reports from government agencies, creating a reporting delay of 18 to 24 months. By the time a respiratory crisis is published and an actuary connects the hospital gridlock back to the initial air quality event, the financial damage is already years old. Enterprise risk managers are flying blind, attempting to protect billion-dollar capital expenditures using public health data that is effectively an autopsy. We spend billions on satellites and ground sensors to monitor the environment, yet no coordination layer exists to connect those environmental metrics to economic outcomes in real time. The sovereignty engine architecture turns the struggling household itself into a proprietary cryptographic sensor. Instead of waiting for government agencies to log a hospitalization, a parent attests to their lost wages and respiratory distress today via a secure digital protocol. This localized attestation data is aggregated using zero-knowledge cryptography to verify the distress while keeping personal details private. This allows the data to legally bypass privacy and antitrust restrictions. This aggregated consensus creates what we call predictive alpha. It acts as a localized macro radar, allowing corporations to spot economic sinkholes months before they manifest on a competitor's balance sheet. When the human ground truth consensus in a specific geohash reaches a 67% threshold, the protocol activates its automated response sequence. A mechanism called fractional syndication instantly bypasses the 18-month lag to deploy defensive capital in 3 directions simultaneously. The first flow routes microcredits directly to the household. By covering medical expenses and lost wages as they happen, the family's finances stabilize and the human sensor remains online. The second flow routes credits to civic infrastructure, funding school air filtration or electric transit fleets, to address the environmental root cause before the next spike. Finally, the third flow returns a dividend to corporate balance sheets. By stopping the chain reaction at the household level, the utility avoids bad debt, and the insurer prevents the claims that would have arrived 18 months later. Analysis of defensive capital flows reveals the logic of this ROI. By calculating the total avoided costs of bad debt, insurance claims, and stranded expenditure, every dollar deployed to stabilize a geohash returns $36 in systemic savings. The projected $145 billion cost of air pollution reflects a solvable coordination gap between the entities already paying for the fallout in fragments. This capital is already being spent. It is currently being lost through write-offs and productivity declines 18 months after the damage is done. The C-suite faces a clear choice. They can wait for the 18-month autopsy report, or they can plug into the protocol to capture this yield today. True systemic resilience requires an algorithmic fiduciary, a protocol that makes environmental distress computationally impossible to ignore. Corporations cannot rise together if they refuse to stabilize the ground where they stand.